Does this mean that we'll be eating physical fish and wine, or it's a metaphor? We touched on this in a different class the other day. It's very possible that it's a metaphor, but it could also mean that we'll be eating physical fish, and we'll be eating physical meat and drinking physical wine. But there's no doubt that the significance of it will be something much deeper, much greater, be something spiritual. In other words, even in our Gashmis the world, there are a lot of things that you see people doing that a child who doesn't have a deeper understanding of life doesn't get it, doesn't realize what's happening, but he sees the physical act. We can see the same physical act that has so much more meaning. And in fact, there's no way that it could be explained to a little child. So if a little boy, a little boy, a little girl, 2, 3 years old, happens to be present at a chuppah, and he sees that the chassan gives the kala a ring, what does he understand? He gave her a present, nice. He gave her a ring. Okay. And if he gives her a diamond ring, wow, it's a little shiny present, okay. Does he have a concept that it's not just a ring, this is a marriage, this is something about the future, they're going to build a home and children and who knows what. All this is I mean, if you're going to tell me that a 3-year-old understands it, okay, so we'll talk about a 2.5-year-old. But there's an age where they see the same thing I see. It's not a metaphor; they see it, but the meaning is on a different world, a different level, completely. You don't see the guy. I think I told you the story once before. If I didn't, I'll tell it now. And those who heard it already, you'll laugh anyway, so it doesn't matter. But there's a story told about a little boy that came to his parents, and he said to his parents that I never knew that our neighbors are so poor. I can't believe it. And the mother says to him, and what do you think now that they're so poor? So you should have seen what just happened. Their baby swallowed a penny. The mother became hysterical. She almost fainted. And the father took the baby and started turning him upside down and then knocking him on the back and trying to get the penny out. The mother was crying and she was on the floor and they had to call doctors and ambulances. It was just a penny. So was it true what he saw? Yeah. The baby swallowed a penny. Is it true that they were hysterical? They were hysterical. Is it true they throw everything they can to get the penny out? It's also true, but not what the child thinks. And the child, this young child, has no concept that there's something more than they just were trying to get out the penny because they're poor. So the same thing with a lot of the things that the Medrash talks about. Some things are purely metaphor, and some things could be physical, but the meaning behind it is infinitely deeper and greater than what just appears on the surface. So you do have people who think when Mashiach comes, the reward is going to be we're going to have such delicious fish that it was worth all the suffering of goals because the taste of the fish is going to be so amazing, even without the crane. It's going to be so amazing that it's everything was worth it. And the meat, you can't even imagine what the meat is going to be. The wine, with all three together, it was all worth it. Chas v'shalom, that's what it's all about. So obviously it's going to be delicious meat and going to be delicious fish and it's going to be very good wine, but that's just external. Each one of them has deeper significance behind it. And these are one of the things that Chassidus talks about. What's the deeper significance of the fish, the meat, and the wine? I want to start with a different part of the Medrash, which is, even though it's at the end of here, but I want to start with this, which is an interesting thing in the Medrash, page 5. This is Medrash. The Medrash says like this. It's actually Gemara, but it's the part of the Gemara which are more the Medrash type. In Gemara, by the way, it's called Agoda. In a separate book, it's called Medrash, but it's more like the stories behind the stories in the Torah. Darash Rabbi Majeski said, Zimnim Omalei Mishmei Rav Ami. Sometimes he repeated this in the name of Rav Ami. The Zimrim Omelim Mishmei Rav Asi. Sometimes we repeated this in the name of Rav Asi. And the Gemara is very particular about you repeating something in someone's name to be precise who's the one that said it. So obviously he must have heard it from both of them, and maybe with different variations. So sometimes he repeated the name of one, and sometimes he repeated the name of the other. And it's based on a pasuk where it says, "Vayigdal hayeled vayigoma," that Hashem, the Yeled, meaning Yitzchak, grew up, and Avraham Avinu, they weaned him off the nursing from his mother. So they made a big feast. Some opinions say it was his bar mitzvah. Some opinions say that when he was weaned off from nursing, but he grew up and they made this big feast. The Medrash says it's also alluding to another feast. In the future, Hashem will make a big feast for the tzaddikim, and that'll be the time Hashem will wean us all from all the kindness that he did with Yitzchak, because this is all about Yitzchak. So there'll be a big feast. This is the feast we're talking about when we're going to celebrate the coming of Mashiach. After the eating and the drinking, then they would, who would be the one? Maybe Hashem himself would say to Avraham Avinu, "Here, take the cup of wine and you do the benching." The Avraham would say, "No, I'm not going to bench because I had a son Yishmael who was not a righteous person, so I don't deserve to do the benching." So then they'll turn to Yitzchak, "Okay, you do the benching." So he says, "No, I had a son Esau, so I don't deserve to do the benching." So then they'll turn to Yaakov and say, "Yaakov, you do the benching." So Yaakov will say, "No, I married two sisters. And even though at the time that I did that, it was permissible, but in the future, the Torah prohibited to marry two sisters. So I shouldn't do the benching." So we'll turn to Moshe and say, "Moshe, you do the benching." So Moshe will say, "No, I didn't merit to go into Eretz Yisrael, so I don't deserve to do the benching." So then you said, Yeshua, you do the benching. I said, "No, I didn't merit to have a son that should be my successor, so therefore I don't deserve to do the benching." Because each and every one of these things need explanation and commentary. But then finally they're going to get to David HaMelech. And Hashem is going to say to David HaMelech, "You do the benching." And David HaMelech is going to say, "Yeah, I will do the benching. And I think I'm the one that should do the benching." Because it says in Tehillim, "Kais Yeshuas Esa," I will lift my cup of salvation, and the Shem Hashem Ekra, I'll call him the name of Hashem. And again, this too needs a lot of Hasidus. What is it all about? And why didn't they want to bench? And why is the cup connected to David HaMelech, and so on and so forth. The reference to a cup, it says, "I lifted it." Now, if you pay attention to it, maybe you remember on Pesach we spoke about it, that when you make Kiddush, you lift it up. You lift the cup. It should be lifted at least 3 tvachim above the table. And it's based on this pasuk, "Kais Yeshuas Es," I lift my cup of salvation. But in general, it says that a cup is related to Malchus, to royalty, and that's David HaMelech and so on. So this is what's going to happen at the end of the meal. What's going to be by the meal itself? So here's one of the things that it said. I'll read the English and I'll explain as we go along. The Leviathan banquet is mentioned many times in Chazal. You see on top it says the days of Mashiach. There's a book where it collected different things about Mashiach. And the name of the book is called The Days of Mashiach. It was initially published in Hebrew, Yemosha Mashiach, then was translated into English. This is from that book. It's an amazing compilation of everything there is to know about Mashiach. If anyone wants to do a little bit more learning and research. The Leviathan banquet is mentioned many times in Chazal, that the Holy One, blessed be He, will in the time to come make a banquet for the righteous from the flesh of the Leviathan. The Medrash describes that by that banquet there'll be a battle that will take place between the Sher Habar and the Leviathan. Sher Habar is a big, huge wild ox. Leviathan is like a huge whale that it says Hashem also preserved from the beginning of creation. Where is this whale now? What is it doing? If it's so big, how is it hiding? These are all things we don't really know the answer to these questions. But there's going to be some sort of a confrontation between these two animals. The Sher Habar will batter the Leviathan with its horns, and through that, it'll make it edible. The Leviathan will batter the Sher Habar with its fins and pierce through it. And at the end of so therefore, through this, you'll be able to eat the Leviathan, and then you'll be able to eat the Sher Habar. At the end of the banquet, when the righteous will want to say the grace to the males, here he has this story. Everyone will pass the cup from one to the next, and end up being by David HaMelech. A little bit further. Although the Leviathan banquet may appear to be no more than a quaint folklore, its deep secrets penetrate the essence of the order. This banquet is not just a parable. It will indeed occur, like the Mashal writes. Mashal is one of the famous commentators on Gemara, but he was also a very big Makubal, a very big Kabbalist. And he says, no, that we must believe all these things in the most literal sense. All those that commentary extrapolate the explanation according to their understanding. No one can remove the content from its simple meaning. Remember, we had this thing the other day about the stretching of the hand, that the guy said, oh, that's not a sophisticated way of looking at things. We have to look at the meaning. You look at the meaning, but it doesn't take away the fact that physically her hand stretched out and it became long, and miraculously she was able to bring Moshe out of the water. Yes, there's a deeper meaning behind it. There's significance behind it. There's a reason why Hashem chose to make the miracle this way, not some other ways, but it doesn't necessarily change the literal meaning unless there's a source. If the source is, I don't think it was literal. That's not a good enough source. It's hard for me to believe that this really happened. That's not a good source. It has to be a source in Torah and something that it says in Torah that doesn't allow us to understand this literally. So the Rebbe writes in the Sikha, nevertheless, it is obvious that the account of the banquet does not refer to the Shor Habor or the Leviathan as we're familiar with. Chazal imply that Hashem created only one male Leviathan and one female, which never reproduce, because he castrated the male and killed the female and preserved it for the righteous in the future. Which means that if they would have been alive, they would recreate, they would breed, they would reproduce other whales as big as them, and they would just destroy the world. So therefore, Hashem didn't do that. And it's also there's also preserved wine, which means wine, as we know, the older it gets, the older it is, the more tasteful it is. Imagine wine that's there from the beginning of creation. Imagine going to a company. We have wine 5,786 years old. By the way, I always wondered, if wine gets old and gets sour, you have to throw it out. What?
To store it properly.
Right. If it's stored in the barrels,
Yeah.
the older it gets. But if it's in a bottle,
It's in a cave.
it gets older, then it gets ruined. So it says that this wine is so amazing, no eye has seen it. So it actually exists, but we're unfamiliar to it. We're revealed only when Moshiach comes. But what does it mean? What is the metaphor? What's the significance behind it? And one of the ways it's explained is that it's representing two kinds of tzaddikim. There's certain tzaddikim that are compared to fish, and certain tzaddikim that are compared to an ox. Let's see if we can explain it a little bit. And Chassidus, it explains that the Leviathan lives in the sea, in the water, symbolizing the hidden spiritual worlds that exist in the revealed divine infinity. In contrast, the Sharabar dwells on the land, symbolizing the visible lower worlds. I don't know if you had it, in level 2 we spoke about this. It's a subject that's related to Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea. And in Kabbalah it says that in the spiritual worlds there are two kinds of worlds. There are hidden worlds and revealed worlds. When we say hidden in this context, it means it's so much higher that it's hidden from us. And there's other words that are revealed. For example, again, this would be a not just a metaphor, but almost like a reflection of this, that every person has thought and speech. I express myself in thought and express myself in speech. What's the difference? When I speak, other people know what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, because that's coming out of my speech. When I'm thinking, that's hidden from other people. In other words, my thoughts are my hidden world, and my speech is my revealed world, relatively speaking. You want to take it a step further, you can say that even thought is revealed. What's going on subconscious, that's really hidden. But the same is in the spiritual worlds. There are certain worlds which are higher, and therefore they're more hidden. They're closer to Hashem, closer to the source, and they're more hidden from us. And this, the metaphor for this is the sea, because the sea has a lot in it. In fact, everything that we have animals there, there are all sorts of fish there, there are all sorts of plants there are all sorts of treasures there, but it's all covered. You don't see it, it's all hidden. Things that are here on earth are all exposed. Everything is exposed. So too with these two spiritual worlds. And therefore, there are two kinds of tzaddikim. There's certain tzaddikim that they function in a more revealed way, and there's certain tzaddikim that they function in a more hidden way. And one of the examples that are given is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Actually, we're going to be celebrating Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in a few weeks. It's going to be Lag BaOmer, and we celebrate Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. What?
So excited.
It is a very exciting time, very special time. And one of the things that were unusual that happened with Shimon Bar Yochai was a story. When the time comes, we'll talk more about it. That they lived in Rome at the time, and there were three people standing and talking together. One of them said, "The Romans are amazing. They built roads and they built buildings and they built bathhouses. They really did an amazing job making everything so beautiful." So Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said, whatever they did for themselves to glorify their name. They didn't do it because they care about the people. So there was a third person there. He was quiet. He was being diplomatic. So I guess word got around, and it was given over to the Roman authorities that this conversation took place. So the person that praised the Romans, they rewarded him. They gave him a promotion, a level, some sort of a position in government. The person who was quiet, which means he didn't defend the government, they punished him in a lighter punishment. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai spoke out against the government, they ruled that he has to be executed. So they wanted to kill him. He ran away and he had to hide. So he was in hiding for 12 years with his son, Rabbi Elazar. And where were they? Were in a cave. And all they did there was study Torah for 12 years. How did they survive? Nobody knew where they were. Even his wife didn't know where they were because he didn't want them to force her to give out information. So they didn't tell anybody where they are. But they were in this cave. And it says that Hashem, near the cave, there was a stream of water. So that's where they had water from. And near the cave, there was a tree. That this tree, what grew on the tree was, what is it called in English? We eat it on Tu B'Shvat. Buxer, what is it called in English?
Pomegranate?
What?
Pomegranate?
No. You know, the hard, dark.
The nut? Oh no, guys,
Right.
it's the one that looks weird almost in every store. It's like it looks like this and it's flat and it's really hard. The carrot?
Carrot.
Yes.
Carrot.
Okay.
Carrot with a V at the end. Carrot. Right. So that's what he had. That was his food. Carrots and water for 12 years. And the Alter Rebbe says, wait a second. Did they eat matzah on Pesach? Where did they get matzah from? Did they have a lulu and esrog on Sukkot? Where did they have a lulu esrog from? according to halacha, they were exempt from doing all these mitzvahs. Why were they exempt? Because their life was in danger. If they would make any contact with anybody to get matzah or to get a lulav or to get an esrog, they would have been, God forbid, executed. They would have been discovered and executed. So halachically, they were exempt. But that's halacha. That's as far as obligation. What does it mean they lived without Torah and mitzvahs for so many years? So it's explained in Kabbalah that they observed the mitzvahs and they accomplished these mitzvahs, but everything in it, every mitzvah you do draws down certain spiritual light. So they were connecting to this spiritual light, but without the physical objects, because they couldn't do it with the physical objects. So therefore, they sort of lived their spiritual life on a more spiritual plane, not in this physical world. They couldn't do all the mitzvahs that we do normally. They couldn't make Kiddush on Shabbos, and they couldn't eat challah on Shabbos. All these they couldn't do because they didn't have it. So all these things they observed in a spiritual way. That's like the tzaddik, and there are tzaddikim also hidden tzaddikim. There are 36 tzaddikim in every generation that are hidden tzaddikim, which means that they're extremely righteous. The whole world sort of rests on them, but nobody knows. You look at them, you would think they're simple people. Some of them even appear to be ignorant people, and yet they're very big tzaddikim that are hidden. And if you're in this room, one of those, that you don't have to identify yourself. It could be men, it could be women. Okay, don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. So, and there are many, fascinating stories about people like that they were great tzaddikim, nobody knew, and then one day it came out in the open that they were really tzaddikim, and everyone thought that this is just some schlepper old guy, and nothing to him. But these are people that, for whatever reason, known to Hashem, the way they serve Hashem had to be in a hidden way. Just like fish, they live in the water, they're covered by the water, they're hidden, and that's how they live. In fact, they can't even live if they go out of the water. There are many stories of these tzaddikim that once they were exposed, their life had to come to an end because they were only created for the purpose of serving Hashem in this hidden way. There are tzaddikim that were hidden and then later they became revealed. Like the Baal Shem Tov, for example. Baal Shem Tov, he was both. Before he became known as Baal Shem Tov, he was a hidden tzaddik, and no one knew that he was a tzaddik. Just to give an example, one of the stories told about Shem Tov. Did you ever hear of the name the Shpola Zayda? Ever hear that name? No. One of the great tzaddikim that lived was called the Shpola Zayda. And he had this strange name. Zayda means a grandfather. Where did he get this name Zayda from? So the story behind it is, and this is a true story, it's brought down in Sifis and in authentic sources, that this person his father was a very righteous person, and he was also a wealthy person. He had an inn. The Baal Shem Tov, before he became known as the Baal Shem Tov, he would be hidden. And what did he do for his parnasa, for his sustenance? He would sell earth. In other words, he would take earth, put it on a wagon, and people needed earth for building, other things that they needed. He would sell them the earth. And him and his wife together would travel and do that. So one time they came to his inn, and he said to the Baal Shem Tov, unless I have proof, I know that you are husband and wife, in my inn, I don't have people living together. The husband has to go to one place, the wife to another place, because I don't know, are you really married? So he was very careful with that. And Baal Shem Tov went to one part, his wife went to another part, and in the middle of the night, he wakes up, and it looks like he sees a fire. He runs outside, and when he runs outside, you see there's not a fire. He sees that from this person's room, there's a very bright light shining. He looks inside, he sees the Baal Shem Tov. The room is lit up like anything, and right next to him, there's a person standing there that he never saw before. And he just fainted. He realized he's seeing something which is way beyond him. They woke him up, and he realized Baal Shem Tov is this hidden tzaddik, and he asked him for forgiveness. And Baal Shem Tov said, "I have nothing to ask for forgiveness. I think you're doing a very good thing. And then he said, once that I did see what I saw, could you tell me who's that other person standing next to you? Because that person never came to the inn. So he said that was the Maral of Prague. Maral of Prague is known by the name of Yudaloy, but he's known more by the name of Maral of Prague. This man was a descendant of the Maral of Prague. And his name was Yudaloy. And he said that you will merit to have a son. I think he had no son at that time. You will merit to have a son. He'll be born next year. And when that child is born, don't do the bris until I come. And no one should know who I am. When I come, I'll look like any other one of the beggars there. Don't say a word. Don't show that you recognize me, but wait till I show up. And that's what happened. He had a child, he made a bris, everyone's waiting, and he's not starting. No, he's not starting, waiting. Suddenly he sees Moshiach, he's not allowed to even show that he knows who this person is, but he said, okay, now we're ready to start. And the custom was that after the bris, they passed the baby around from one person to the next, and everyone gave a bracha. So when it came to the Baal Shem Tov, he couldn't wait for the Baal Shem Tov to give a bracha because he knew that he was really a hidden tzaddik. Baal Shem Tov said that in the Chumash it says Avram Zoken. Avram became a Zayda, became a grandfather. But Hashem should help. He should also become a Zayda. Everybody started to laugh like, is that what it's all about? They didn't, as if they saw he's a simple Jew who doesn't really know much. But because of that, the name Zayda stuck to him. In fact, by the way, a lot of people today that are his descendants, their last name is Zayda. I know people like that. Their last name is Zayda. So these are the kind of stories that happen with it. It means they were learning, davening, serving Hashem, but all in a hidden way that no one knew. So that's a different kind of avodah. So which is higher? The revealed tzaddikim that do their avodah physically and you can see what they're doing, or those that do these things in a hidden spiritual way and you can't really see what they're doing. Which is higher? What? Craig, you got the right answer. Any question you're going to ask in Chassidus, the answer is going to be both. Who's higher? The one who does Mitzvah, the one who learns all day? Both. How could both be higher? What's higher, Pesach or Shavuos? Both. The answer is each one has an advantage over the other. There are Maimarim that will explain the greatness of Pesach over Shavuos, and other Maimarim explain how Shavuos is greater than Pesach. And Maimarim will explain how mitzvahs are so much higher than Torah study. Another Maimarim will tell you how Torah study is so much higher than mitzvahs. Tzedakah is greater than anything else. No, those things are greater than tzedakah, which means that everything is true. It's like the organs of the body. Every organ has a certain advantage. And without the function of that organ, the whole body would be missing. So yes, what's greater, the brain or the heart? There's an advantage in the brain and there's an advantage in the heart. It's an advantage in the hands and an advantage in the legs. There's an advantage in the eyes and an advantage in the ears. And chas v'shalom, anybody that's missing any one of these organs is missing something major. So you need them all. Yes, there are certain times where the organ which is most important could be one specific organ. So for example, if there's a fire and the person's in danger, what's the most important organ at that time?
Legs.
The legs. You run. They tell the story that there was two people on a boat. One was a big philosopher, and the other one was a person that worked in the Navy, and he was a very talented person. And then something happened to the boat, and it started sinking. So before, the philosopher was making fun of him, like, what did you study, and which books did you read? How much philosophy do you know? You don't know nothing, you're nobody. When the boat started sinking, he said, "Do you know how to swim?" They said, "No." He knows philosophy, doesn't know how to swim. So in this context, the guy who knows how to swim is better off than the one who's a philosopher. In an educational world, the philosopher is better off than the one who only knows how to swim. So everything has its time and its place, and therefore there's an advantage in both. And this is the hidden sort of symbol and secret in the fact that there'll be this confrontation, so to speak, between the Levios and the Sherabar, which means each one's advantage over the other will be brought out. But on the other hand, the fact that they're coming both together, which means each one will complement the other. I know someone who wrote to the Rebbe about a shidduch that came up, and he wrote to the Rebbe that parents are suggesting it, and they think it's a very good idea, but we're really very different. So they're really bad. So if that's the case, there was in Hebrew, Yashlimu, you'll complement each other if you're both different. Of course, if you're very different, it's another story. Sometimes you're so different you can't complement each other. You're worlds apart. But in general, the fact that two people are different doesn't mean that they can't get together in a marriage. On the contrary, that could sometimes mean the opposite, that they can each complement each other and work together. So these two types of tzaddikim, the world needs both. And that's why Hashem created such tzaddikim and such tzaddikim. And when Moshiach comes, that'll all be brought out on the open, and they each complement each other. Any questions? You understand that? No questions? You got it? You ready for the mail? Okay, ready for the entertainment?
Can I have a question?
Yeah,
Will it just be the righteous at this meal?
we're all righteous. Welcome to the club. In Pirkei Avos we say Amech Kulam Tzadikim. Your nation are all tzadikim. So when it says tzadikim, it means everybody.
And David HaMelech is like David HaMelech himself, or it's Moshiach?
No, that's David HaMelech. Yeah. Oh, you mean maybe it's Mashiach, who's the descendant of him? It appears from that it's David HaMelech himself. Because when it says Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov, Moshe, all those are the people themselves. Now, what's the wine? Okay, we had our fish, we had the meat. Now, what about the wine? Next page. After all this perfection, and now everything is perfected because we have these two types of avodas, Hashem will reveal his deepest secrets, and that's symbolized by the drinking of the wines preserved in its grapes since the 6th day of creation. Never till then released. The revelation of these secrets will be climax of the banquet. So this is based on something which says in Gemara. On the surface, it seems to be just a nice, pleasant little saying, and that is Mishanichnas Yayin Yotza Sod, which means when wine goes in, the secrets come out. Simple meaning means when you drink wine, your tongue becomes loose, and things that you normally hide are going to come out. That's a simple meaning. In fact, it's interesting, the gematria of the word yayin is 70. Right? Yayin is, Yud is 10, second Yud is 20, and Nun is 50. 50 and 20 is 70. The gematria of the Hebrew word soid, which means secret, is also 70. Samach is 60, Vav is 66, and Daled 66 and 4 is 70. So the simple meaning is that, but that's not what the Torah is coming to tell us. We all know that. The real truth is that wine has in it a certain property that it brings out that which is hidden in the open. The reason why so much of the performances of mitzvahs and different things in Yiddishkeit are related to wine. Shabbos we make kiddush on wine. Yom Tov we make kiddush on wine. Pesach we drink 4 cups of wine. At a wedding we make a bracha over wine. There's so many different things in our way of life that are connected to wine. Even in the Beis Hamikdash, on the Mizbeach, besides the fact that they brought a carbon, it also was an Aveda called Nisuch Hayayin, pouring wine on the Mizbeach that went together with the carbon. So what's this thing about wine? And the answer is that wine has in it the property to bring out something which is hidden. In fact, it's related to this week's parsha. This week's parsha tells us the story of the two sons of Aaron that they died. In the Chumash, after the story happened of the two sons of Aaron that died, the first thing that follows after that is a commandment. Do not drink wine when you go into the Beis HaMikdash. Based on that, Mepharshim say this is an indication that that must have been the sin that they did. They went into the Beis HaMikdash, in Mishkan, and they drank wine before. You're not allowed to. What's the deeper reason why you're not allowed to drink wine? On a surface, the reason is because wine makes you loose and not so serious, not so responsible, and therefore it's inappropriate when you're going to such a holy place to drink wine before. The deeper reason is that wine allows something deeper in a person to become revealed. And also wine, when I drink it with the right intention, also brings the deepest secrets of Hashem to become revealed. There's actually a pasuk, Yayin Samech Elakim v'Anoshim. Wine makes Hashem happy and makes people happy. So when they pour the wine on the Mizbeach, it makes Hashem happy. What does that mean? That just like wine brings out the secrets in humans, which means it opens up hidden chambers, it opens up certain depths that ordinarily is hidden. Same with Hashem, that in the spiritual realm, those things which are normally hidden become more open, and we become exposed to deeper secrets of understanding Hashem. So if a person goes into the Beis HaMikdash and drinks wine, which means that'll bring him to being exposed to very deep things about Hashem, what's going to happen is what happened to them, that they'll be so overwhelmed with all that they're going to Chas v'Shalom pass away, expire. And Hashem doesn't want that. He wants us to be grounded here on earth. So therefore, you're not supposed to drink wine. But from this we see that wine has to do with revealing hidden secrets. By the way, why is it connected to wine? Because wine itself is that. What's wine? Wine originally is a grape. But you don't serve, grape is not wine. Wine is not grapes, even though the wine comes from the grape. What is wine? Wine is something which is hidden in the grape. And if you process the grapes properly, you'll have this beautiful, amazing drink, which is wine. Which is wine itself is a product of something which was hidden and then comes out to be revealed. So that's why wine represents the hidden secrets of Torah. Generally speaking, Torah is represented by water. Sometimes water is a way of referring to Torah. Sometimes Torah is compared to bread. Sometimes Torah is compared to wine. Sometimes Torah is compared to oil. It says it's all different levels of Torah. So the revealed part of Torah generally is compared to water, compared to bread. The hidden secrets of Torah compared to wine and to oil. Because these are both things that are hidden in the fruit, and only by processing the fruit, the hidden comes out in the open. So when you say Sudas Mashiach, what is it referring to? I didn't bring the sheet with all the terms. But right now we know there's two things it could be referring to. On Pesach, we had a meal which we call Sudas Mashiach. But also there's another thing, it's also referring to the future, that when Mashiach actually comes, and all the tzaddikim are back, there'll be a big feast, and all the tzaddikim and Hashem, and we'll all be there by the feast, and that's called Sudas Mashiach. There's another thing about that. I think we'll have to leave that for next time. That's about the singing and the dancing and the rejoicing and the simcha and everything else that'll happen once Mashiach comes. Yeah.
If everything is gonna be revealed when Mashiach comes, what is gonna be revealed with the wine?
The wine?
Like specifically in the middle, because the wine is revealing things.
It means, I think, that the wine is going to be one of the things through which everything will be revealed. And I guess, being that this is wine that is very special, that it's preserved since the beginning of creation, which means wine in general brings out the secrets. But ordinary wine brings out ordinary secrets. And this wine will bring out such secrets that were never revealed before, because it's a wine that has much greater quality to it. Okay, to be continued. You continue.
Rosie. Rosie. Huh? Oh, Rosie. I don't really with my one. What? Very nice outfit. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wonder what it is. I don't know. Eagle, is it an eagle? No. You know what, if you do it enough. You'll really have to. It's not, oh, you hear that? Oh. You know it? You're on fire in Parsha. I shall go drink my water bottle. Fingers. No, it's already went back all of this one. Very back. From 10 a.m. I think 2 p.m. I'm glad you came up. Thank you. I saw this thing, she was yesterday. No, yesterday. Yesterday. She came to home. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this. I put it in front of them. Maybe like with your cat. I'm not that, if you say consider that it's not the right color. I'm the orange, right? But like. Orange, so we have but it's so cold. Yeah, it's cold. It is easy for me. I'm literally wearing my coat. So much better to be cold than hot. No, what did I mean this week? No. Really? You could go fine. Like when it's hot, but I shouldn't have to go all the time.